Hello everybody and welcome back. This is episode number 26 now of the Vanarama YouTube channel's Football Manager 2018 experiment with Celtic and Rangers in England. Obviously where we are now today, we started off with the Vanarama and we are with Celtic in the Premier League. And as you can see, as predicted, a massive upturn in results. I've seen them climb as far as 8th. I didn't think they'd get that far, but they're from 16th up to 8th. And they've gone on a mass winning run, taking down Southampton, Man United as well along the way. But like these teams I mentioned that they still got left to play, like your Watfords, your Bournemouths, your Hulls, they got their wins against those teams. And they got a few cheeky draws, so they've done well against Man United. They've beaten them and drawn against them. They've still lost 8 games, and they've lost against the likes of Leicester and West Ham. But, we're down towards the bottom, but at the end of the day, they're sitting on 35 points after 25 games, which is really good, considering the seasons they've had before. And, I don't know, an outside chance of a European spot maybe. But maybe they're on something of a climb now, and we'll start seeing Celtic as a permanent Premier League fixture. Let's have a little look at the business they did in January. So, they brought in 3 players, although they picked up Mamadou Mendy on a free, a 20-year-old Senegalese central midfielder. But they've spent handsomely on Chan Akachali, I think that's how you're going to pronounce that in Turkish, £35 million worth, 90 grand a week striker. And it's as if they listened to me. They picked up a new striker that could potentially score them some goals. So I said they needed a goal-scoring striker, and they needed an attacking midfielder. Siboncio Mkwanazi, South African 21-year-old attacking midfield right. More one for the future, although he's worth a lot of money now. So we may be making some first-team contributions. But Sander Berge, now I know he's a player who I think we know. No. Sander Berge is a player that I remember, but he's been at Chelsea and Man United for all of his career. And, 18 assists across the whole of his career. He hasn't been a permanent fixture in any of these teams. He started off as one for Chelsea, but he's not really inspired an awful lot. But he may be the kind of midfielder that Celtic need, as we said about creating goals. His passing is 15, his creativity... Do they have that anymore, or is it Vision now? Vision 13, so I don't know. Maybe bolstering up that midfield is something that we said. It looks as though they've listened to me. They got a midfielder and they got a striker, which is exactly what I said they needed, and they started winning games now. So, that's all good. Celtic are looking pretty sweet right now. So as we say, sitting in 8th. I don't think they got any worries about going down, because they're 15 points clear of relegation, although... We have seen them in a good position before and fall, so we wouldn't rule it out really, but on 35 points I think they're safe this year, with 13 games left to go, and if they keep their good form going, why not make an assault on the top 6? Why not, eh? How are Rangers getting on now then, I wonder? Did they make any signings in January? Are they still in the top 2? We'll find out now. So the answer to the question is yes, they are still in the top 2, and now they have a handsome little gap over Fulham, 9 points. They're sitting on the same points as Burnley, so they're going to be slugging out with Burnley to win the league. I fully expect Rangers to go on and get promoted now, considering the season that they're currently having. They're Fulham are 9 points behind them, and they're well out of sight from 4th place. So to say they're going to get in the playoffs, that's pretty much a given. But I really think they're going to push on for top 2, possibly even win the division. Let's have a look at the signings that they make. We said that maybe their defence could need bolstering. So they've made one signing, and it's Darren Palmer, and that's a lot of money. I think that's a lot. That certainly is a lot of money for them anyway. They haven't really let any players go. Darren Palmer is a left back, so maybe they've identified where the goals are coming from. Maybe from the right hand side, and they need a left back to counteract that one. And he's on a lot of money as well for this division. 82 grand a week for the Championship is ridiculous amount of money. But he's 27 years old, he's got experience, he must believe that Rangers are going to get promoted, because he would have come from the Premier League to join them, and he wasn't a regular starter at West Ham, so maybe that's another thing first team football, but he has been a permanent fixture there since signing for them in 2027. So I think that's a very good signing, that is, if it is the right hand side where the goals are coming from. So second place, I think, prediction time, I think Celtic will maintain top 10. I don't think they go any further than 8th. I think Rangers are going to finish top of this division. I've just got a really good feeling they're going to slug it out with Burnley. It could go either way. I think Rangers do something good, and a title win will certainly be the one to equal what Celtic did last season as well and join their rivals in the top division. It's all looking exciting there, guys. I'm definitely going to keep this going, so let's see how this season concludes. I'll see you at the end. Well, I don't think there's any point going to the playoff final day, because I don't think Rangers are finishing in the playoffs. I think they're going to win this division, so we'll see it right through. I'll see you at the end of the season, guys. Okay then, everybody, 31st of May, and as you can see, Celtic finished 7th in the end, winning 17 games out of 38, 62 points in total. They only lost 10 games, which is really good for them, considering the only losses they got, well, mainly against the likes of Tottenham, Man City and Chelsea. 2 of them are coming against Tottenham, 2 of them coming against Man City. So that's a pretty good season, a plus 11 goal difference too. So ended finishing 7th, not quite able to penetrate the top 6, but neither were Tottenham. They finished above Tottenham this season, which is a really good achievement for, obviously this is a 3rd spell in the Premier League. 3rd time lucky, hopefully to become a force in the Premier League. And this is a very encouraging sight, because the only other time they didn't go down from the Premier League, they did finish in 17th. So it's good to see. Really good to see. Now, we noticed, obviously, I pointed out about player stats and whether they had anybody in there. Finishing 7th, you'd think they're bound to have someone in there now. And look, as you can see, the last clean sheets. So Mohamed Traore of Celtic ended up finishing the season with 9 clean sheets in joint 6th. So there's a start. Average rating, did they manage to penetrate that one? No. So goals. Did they get into the goals? No. But like I say, it was a fair whack into the season. When we last looked at this, did they get anything on the assists? Yes, they did. Julian Brandt and Rowan Fuller, both with 8 in joint 16th. So, a couple of good individual seasons there. The goalkeeper mainly. Celtic finishing in 7th place. Now, one thing we haven't looked at all this season is their cup progress. So let's have a look at it now. They went out to Blackburn in the 2nd round of the Carabao Cup. That's very disappointing, of course. FA Cup, though, entering it at the 3rd round. They beat Stevenage, and then they beat Reading, and then they beat Hartlepool. So that's interesting. That's really interesting, because this means they got to the quarter-final, and they went out to Man United at home 4-1 in the quarter-final stage. So quite unlucky in the FA Cup this year. Maybe next year there might be some cup glory for them. So now, let's move on to the rivals of Rangers. So this shows that they didn't lose in the playoffs. But if you look a little bit above, title holders, there it is. As I predicted, Rangers won the title with a mammoth 105 points, winning 32 out of 46 games and losing only 5. What a fantastic season they had there. They will be joining their rivals, and I think they would have won that title with more points than what Celtic did. If I remember right, Celtic didn't win it by that many. I'm going to just have a quick look. Competitions. So yeah, so Celtic won it last year with 100 points. Rangers won it this year with 105. So Rangers now with the Premier League money. A lot of good-looking young players as well at Rangers. Obviously, they finished with the top goal scorer in Joel Hilton. The best average rating was Joe Bursick, and then 3rd place Joel Hilton again. Assists, they didn't have anyone in the top 3, but did they have anybody at all? Yes, in 8th, Sabonga Mitinkulu, the midfielder they bought from, well, they had on loan from Porto. He he obviously came in and made a massive impact. Gus Smalley is a 21-year-old English central midfielder. So I mean, some good young players coming through. Simon Ball, who was he? A left winger on loan from Man City. So they played the loan market well. They didn't spend too much of their money, and they won the division. So they'll go up with a nice little war chest to go forward with. So how did Rangers get on in the cups? So they beat Celtic in the Carabao Cup. They went out in the fourth round to Man City 2-1 at home. In the FA Cup, they joined in the third round. They won against Mansfield. They won against Preston. They drew and won in their cup replay against title rival Burnley. So they equalled Celtic so far. They won. They beat Leicester in the quarter-final of the FA Cup. Did they get to the semi? Oh, obviously, they got to the semi-final. Did they win the semi-final? They did. Rangers got to the FA Cup final. They beat Liverpool in the semi. Did they win the FA Cup? No, they lost 4-1 to Man United. Man United were the conquerors also of Celtic, who won at Celtic Park by the same scoreline. So Rangers made the final of the FA Cup. Rangers could be in Europe. Rangers could well be in Europe. They won 4-1. Man United would have finished in the top 4, wouldn't they? Let's go and have a quick look just to make sure. Yeah, Man United finished second, so Man United will be in the Champions League. Rangers should be playing in Europe next season. That's great. What a season for Rangers. They won the title with more points than what Celtic did the season before, and they got further than them in both cups. They actually got to the final of the FA Cup. That's amazing. I tell you what, right? I got a feeling Rangers are going to do well in the Premier League next year. If they keep hold of those good players and add well with the money that they get, they'll have a good season. So, there you go. That's how Celtic and Rangers did this year. A really good season for both, if you consider it. Consider where Celtic finished in 7th. Rangers doing what they did in the Championship and the FA Cup. But we always keep a close eye on the Scottish League, and in particular, obviously the teams that we swapped them with, Gateshead and Barrow. Let's have a little look at what those teams and what the Scottish League have done. Now, for the shock of shocks for this season, if you thought Rangers finishing in the FA Cup final was a bit of a shock, St Mirren are the newest title holders of the Scottish League, and they won it considerably. They won it. How many points difference is that? That's 16 points clear. They won it by. They absolutely smashed it. When it's been a mixture of Hibs and Aberdeen, and Dundee United dropped in with one, St Mirren have come out of nowhere and absolutely blown them all away. I mean, the usual subjects of Dundee, Hibs and Aberdeen finish in the top 6, of course, but St Mirren will be representing Scotland in the Champions League next year. Talking about Scotland in the Champions League, Hibs would have been in the Champions League. Obviously, they qualify straight for the group stage because these teams, I don't know how, but these Scottish teams have been really, really representing Scotland really well in Europe over these seasons, and they've actually managed to do better than Celtic and Rangers have done over recent years. So they got straight through the Champions League group stage because of the coefficients that the Scottish teams have managed to cook up, and they managed to get a home draw against Barcelona in Group H. They won 2-0 away to Partizan. They lost 3-0 away to Zenit, but they beat them at home. But if it was a crunch in the scoreline, Zenit have the edge on that. They obviously lost at Barcelona 4-0, but they won at home to Partizan. Did they get through in that group? Yes, they did. Where they ended up going on to play Chelsea in the first knockout round, but lost 6-0 on aggregate. Understandable, of course, but for Hibs to get through to the knockout stages of the Champions League is quite spectacular, really. And everyone say that Scottish football would die without Celtic and Rangers in there. Well, even though this is just a game, it's a very, very well detailed and accurate simulation of the game, and it shows potentially that Scottish football could thrive without them. But St Mirren went on to win the Scottish League. I'm still flabbergasted by that. Anyway, let's have a little look at Barrow and Gateshead. Okay, so Barrow finishing 5th, Gateshead finishing in 8th, so reasonable seasons for them. Gateshead won't be too happy finishing 8th, of course, but they didn't go down. They stay in that division. Hamilton promoted along with Wraith, so two teams would have gone down from the Ladbrokes Premier League. So there's that. Not really much to look at there. Barrow were close to finishing in the playoff place, I suppose, but I see if both of them can build on that next season, and both of them see if they can both get promoted together to the Ladbrokes Premiership. I don't think we've seen them together in the Premiership that much, but the fact that they're hovering between the top two divisions and only really a little blips or Barrow fall into the Ladbrokes League One, it's encouraging for them to see. So, guys, there we go. That's the end of season 13. I knew it was worth pushing past my usual 10 because after 13 we now have Rangers and Celtic in the Premier League. Now if they can both sustain, we'll do 2 more seasons with them both in the Premier League, just to see how far they can go, and then I think we can really say that it's run its course then, can't we? Just goes to show that if Celtic and Rangers were put into the English League from the Vanarama, they could potentially end up being Premier League teams. They would have the opportunity, they'd have the support, they'd have the finance to get there. So they got to the Championship first time of asking each year. So why not? I think it's something that could be done, but too political football these days to even suggest it, to be honest. So there we go. Guys, thanks all for watching 13 seasons. This has been my favourite experiment so far at the moment. 13 seasons. I think by the end of season 15, I think that's pretty much where we're going to call time on it. So 2 more seasons left, and then we will end this. I do have an idea for something else that's going to come afterwards, but we'll talk about that more towards the end. I may even do a future episode after 10 more seasons just to see where the 2 teams end up. But guys, thank you all for keeping up with this series. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I hope that you guys have enjoyed watching it. And I hope you enjoy watching it for the next 2 seasons to see how far in the Premier League Celtic and Rangers can go. Thank you all, and until the next time, cheerio for now.